Oosh. Wow. 06:43 precisely. Saturday, the 7th of September, effectively 7/7/19. Oh no, I'm not trying to be a Ricky Hatton impersonator. Or, oh wow. I'm wearing the Queen's attire robe because I got up today. Seems I've got a bad back. It seems that I might have a few muscular complaints, and I was freezing and shivering and all contorted as soon as I got out of bed, which was an affair in itself. So I have I've done a dad trick. Look at this. It's not funny. So here we are. Remedy. Oh yes. Hospital. No, good Lord, hospital. What do you want to go there for and get inflicted? So, a bit of muscular pain. The robe of the Queen keeps man warm. Hello, good day. It's early. I'm going to read you something that's critical to natural law. It's critical for the you and I verse, our understanding of many things. So I'm going to just press on. Good day, happy Saturday. This is your Saturday gift. This work is an amalgamation. I have not done the study, neither am I an atomic scientist. I am not credited to speak in such a realm academically. I forgot what that nickname was now for academically. But I will proceed on in the realm of unbiased, new, open source opinions of substance, alright, that's got subsequent studies, references, scholars, works to back it up. Let me get you straight. Wow, you can tell it's weekend. Oh, wow, this is a lot of pain. I thought I'd try and ease in with this. The you and I verse, universal laws. The following document presents new developments in neuroscience and a solution to the many current unsolved problems in physics today. While it keeps clear of metaphysical correlations and is solely focused on scientific verifiable data, it also has a philosophical repercussion pertaining to life, death, and the origin of the universe. And due to its many layers and density in its nature and presentation, this may require multiple readings, viewings to fully comprehend its implications, even though considerable effort will and has been made to simplify the complex scientific concepts that are discussed around the subject, such as God and our realm and all is atom. The human brain. When we talk about law, cognitive dissonance, a belief system, the human brain has a belief system, okay? And we're going to focus on that belief system, on that civil belief system, and for some element, the criminal system. It's handled by the same mob, gang, process, policy, business, all right? So the human brain is a network of approximately 100 billion neurons. Different experiences create different neural connections, which breathe out different emotions. And depending on which neurons get stimulated, certain connections become stronger and more efficient, while others may become weaker. Use it or lose it is what we say. The scientists call it neuroplasticity. Somebody who, for example, trains to be anything like a musician, learning a new skill, will create stronger neural connections that link the two hemispheres of the brain in order to be musically creative. Virtually any sort of talent or skill can be created through training, through training. My comma, it's a raw document. So, for example, various hopeless students, they start as a self-admitted student of a university, lacking in knowledge, experience, skill, education in that area, and they're used to struggling in that area that they'd like to improve upon, say at basic maths, and then they'll go on to train their abilities and become, say, a famous human calculator capable of performing extremely complex mathematics, going from a complete novice and a beginner and then ending up such skilled, dexterity as that. Rationality and emotional resilience work the same way. These are neural connections that can be strengthened. So that's the emotional side of things now, not the intelligence, but the IQ for rationality and your emotional responses. So whatever you are doing at any time, you are physically modifying your brain to become better at it. I'm going to have to stand up because that is a weapon. It's a self-inflicted weapon, that. We'll get some space. I'm going to have to stand up because, that wasn't good. Whatever you are doing at any time, you are physically modifying your brain to become better at that task and process. Since this is such a foundational mechanism of the brain, the neural connections that can be strengthened, being self-aware can greatly then enrich your life experience, as you are finding out and we are seeing. So specific neurons and neurotransmitters such as norepinephrine, norepinephrine, norepinephrine trigger a defensive state when we feel that our thoughts need to be protected, let's say, from the influence of others. If we are then confronted argumentatively in a legal position, in a social position, in a bully position, anywhere, at any point in your life, if you are confronted with differences in opinion, then it's a known fact chemicals are released in the brain. These are the same chemicals that try to ensure our survival in dangerous situations. In this defensive state, the more primitive part of the brain interferes with rational thinking, and the limbic system can knock out most of our working memory. That will physically cause narrow-mindedness in that moment. We see this in the politics of fear mainly, in the strategy of poker players, poker face, simply when someone is stubborn in a discussion. No matter how valuable an idea is, the brain will have trouble processing it when it is in such a state. On a new level, it reaches as if we are being threatened, and even if this threat comes from harmless opinions or facts that we may otherwise find helpful and could rationally agree with. When we express ourselves and our views are therefore appreciated, not argumented with and contested, those defense chemicals decrease in the brain, and dopamine neurotransmission, so it's just the same as travelling in an iron horsey, but neurotransmission activates the reward neurons, like making us feel empowered and increasing our self-esteem. Our beliefs have a profound impact on our body and its chemistry, and this is why placebos can therefore be so effective. Self-esteem or self-belief is closely linked to the neurotransmitter serotonin, and when the lack of it takes on severe proportions, it often leads to depression and self-destructive behaviour and even suicide. Social validation, therefore, via media platforms in modern day situations and developments and algorithms for instance, would increase the levels of dopamine and serotonin in the brain and allows us to let go of emotional, everyday, realistic fixations and become self-aware more easily. Social psychology often looks at the basic human need to fit in and calls this the normative social influence. When we grow up, our moral and ethical compass is almost entirely forged by your environment. So our actions are often a result of the validation we therefore get from society. The new developments in neuroscience are now giving us a better understanding of culture and id entity, identity. Recent neurological research has confirmed the existence of empathetic mirror neurons. When we experience an emotion or perform an action, specific neurons fire. But will be observed. Will be observed someone else performing this action, but when we observe someone else performing this action, or when we therefore imagine it, many of the same neurons will fire again, as if we were performing the action ourselves. These empathy neurons allow us to connect to other people, and therefore allowing us to feel what others feel, empaths and so forth, And since these neurons respond to, we'll argue, imagination to some extent, we can experience emotional feedback from those moments as if it came from somebody else. This system allows man and us to self-reflect. The mirror neuron does not know the difference. This is the subconscious to some extent as well, but we said we'll keep it basic and skim it. So the mirror neuron does not know the difference between it and other parts of the brain and conscious parts of the psyche, and is the reason why we are so dependent, therefore, on social validation, and why man now wants to so desperately fit in Love Island, Celebrity Island, going on the box and then finding your social exposure so much that you end up taking your own life. What? The other end of it, you see, so hence this, just to finished before we go hermetic, okay? So strap in and eyes down. We are in a constant duality. We live in a reality with a north and a south pole. We are all in a bipolar realm. We have a left and a right hemisphere. We are bipolar in the dome area as well. So we are in a constant duality between how we see ourselves and how others see us. This can result in confusion in terms of identity and self-esteem. The brain and scans of it show that we experience these negative emotions even before we are even aware of them sometimes. When we are self-aware, we can alter misplaced emotions because we control the thoughts that cause them. This is a neurological, chemical consequence. How memories become therefore labelled, pigeonholed, and then subsequently retrieved, and how they are restored through protein synthesis. Now, when you have a memory that's 20 years old, if we're going on the same concept and proportionality of other such, proposals of mechanics and physics and light and time and distance and travel, the time it takes for a light of a star to travel and so forth, as they say, speed of light times the distance, mass, velocity, the time the light actually gets to the eye from that said incident. If you think about a memory and it being 20 years old, it's going down deep parts of it. It doesn't take 20 years to get to you, and then by the time it gets to you, so I have a bit of a, with these, this work and study, we have modern day, and what we're doing is re-editing at the permission of said author, and study students of initiates. So they become labelled and then they're retrieved and they are restored through a protein synthesis. Self-observing profound, changes the way our brain and we works, our conscious, when we are self-observing, it activates. When you are watched at work and you're out there in the public realm and you're doing a duty and someone comes on your shoulder and starts watching you, what happens? The double slit experiment, when you know that you're being watched, you perform differently. So by, I'd argue, not human nature. You fumble and bumble and make a mistake. Watch and remember that, and here we go. Every time we do this, our rationality and emotional resilience are strengthened. What self-observing profoundly changes the way our brain works. It activates the self-regulating neocortical regions, which give us an incredible amount of control over our feelings. Every time we do this, our rationality and emotional resilience are strengthened. When we are not being self-aware, most of our thoughts and actions are impulsive, and the idea that we are randomly reacting and not making conscious choices, listen to this, is instinctively frustrating. The brain resolves this by creating explanations for behavior and physically rewriting it into our memories through memory reconsolidation, making us believe that we are truly in control of our actions, validating them artificially. This is also called backwards rationalization, and it can leave most of all negative emotions therefore unresolved and ready to be triggered at any time. Thoughts become constant fuel to our confusion, as our brain will keep trying to justify why we have behaved irrationally. All this complex and almost schizophrenic subconscious behavior is the result of a vastly parallel distributed system in our brain. There is no specific center of consciousness, maybe the pineal gland, and around that area, the area that's the third part of the brain that sits in both, the center, it sits on both hemispheres. The appearance of the unity is in fact each of these separate circuits being enabled and being expressed at one particular moment in time. Our experiences are constantly changing our neural connections, physically altering the parallel system that is our consciousness. Direct modifications to this, therefore, can have some real consequences. In America, they brought a video out called The Secret, okay? That brings into question what and where consciousness really is. Edgar Cayce's subsequent work to also parallel to this study. If your left cerebral hemisphere were to be disconnected from the right, as is in the case of split brain patients, you would normally still be able to talk and think from the left hemisphere, while your right hemisphere would have very limited cognitive capacities. Your left brain would not miss the right part, even though this profoundly changes your perception. One consequence of this is that you could no longer describe the right half of someone's face, but you will never mention it, and you will never see it as a problem, or even realise that something has changed. Since this affects more than just your perception of the real world, and therefore also applies to your mental images, it's not just a sensory problem, but a fundamental, full-on, all-level change in your consciousness. They, amazing. They've got this is the knowledge and the feedback from these studies. Each neuron has a voltage which can change when the ions flow in and out of these cells. Once a neuron's voltage has reached a certain level, it will then fire an electrical signal to other cells, which will repeat that process. When many neurons fire at the same time, we can measure these changes in the form of brain waves. These underpin almost everything going on in the human mind, including memory, the attention of memory, and even intelligence. As they oscillate at different frequencies, they will get classified in bands such as alpha, theta, and gamma. Each are associated with different tasks. Brain waves allow brain cells to tune in to the frequency corresponding to their particular task, while ignoring relevant signals, similar to how a radio hones in on different radio stations, on waves, frequencies, to pick up different stations. The transfer information between neurons becomes optimal when their activities are indeed synchronized. This is the same reason why we experience cognitive dissonance. the frustration caused by simultaneously holding two contradictory ideas. Will is merely to drive, yes, to reduce dissonance between each of our active neural circuits. Let's take a little bit early for school education, isn't it? Especially this deep. Get some coffee. Maybe come back later in the morning or this afternoon. I am wearing this because I have backache. The 5 scribes in the initiates in the cast. Good day, good rising, happy Saturn day. Evolution can be seen as the same process where nature tries to adapt or resonate with its environment. By doing so, it evolved to a point where it became self-aware and began to ponder its own existence. When a person faces the paradox of wanting purpose while thinking that human existence is meaningless, cognitive dissonance therefore occurs. Let's go for a little different angle. I need to stretch the bones. Yeah. Oh, good Lord. It's not going to be an easy day today, let me tell thee. Throughout history, this has led many to research and reach for spiritual and religious guidance. Challenging science as it's failed to give answers to existential questions such as why man is here, who, what, why, where, what is man's purpose and reason for being. Man's left cerebral hemisphere is largely responsible for creating a coherent belief system in order to maintain a sense of continuity towards our very lives and existence. New experiences get folded into the pre-existing belief system, and when they don't fit, they are simply denied. Counterbalancing this is the right cerebral hemisphere, which has the opposite tendency. Whereas the left hemisphere will try to preserve the models, the right hemisphere is constantly changing the status quo. When the discrepant anomalies become too large, the right hemisphere forces a revision in the worldview. However, when the beliefs are too strong and the right hemisphere may not succeed in overriding or denial. This can create profound confusion when mirroring others, when the neuron connections that physically define man's belief system are not strongly developed or active. Then our consciousness, the unity of the separate active circuits at that moment, may consist mainly of activity related to our mirror neurons. Just as when we experience hunger, our consciousness consists mostly of neural interactions for consuming fruit. This is not the result of some core self-giving command to different cerebral areas. All of the different parts of the brain become active and inactive and interact without a core. Just as the pixels upon these screens can express themselves as a recognizable image, when in unity, the convergence of neural interaction expresses itself as consciousness. At every moment, we are in fact, easy for me to say, boom, no, I found this and I thought this is rather good, let's get it out there. Do we agree? At every moment, we are in fact, a different image, a different snapshot, a different entity when mirroring when hungry and when reading such things as this document. Your brain will be doing many things when new information is surpassing an initiate's mind. Every second we become different versions of ourselves, persons, it would say, versions of ourselves as we go through these different and many states throughout the waking moment and the sleeping moments of meditation. When we use our mirror neurons to look at ourselves, we may construct the ID of id entity. If we do this with our scientific understandings, we see something completely different. The neural synergies that produce our oscillating consciousness go far beyond our own neurons. We are equally the result of cerebral hemispheres interacting. Now think toruses, toroidal planes, inertia, interacting electrochemically as we are of the senses, connecting our neurons to other neurons in our environment. Nothing, therefore, is external. It was all happening within here. This is not a hypothetical philosophy. It is the basic property of mirror neurons, which allow us to understand ourselves through others. Seeing this neural activity as your own, while excluding the environment, would therefore be a misconception of reality. Our super original features are also reflected in evolution, where our previous survival as primates, rhesus positive, fam in the house, they relied on our collective abilities. They had to overcome the new cortical regions that evolved to permit the modulation of primitive instincts and overwrite the hedonistic impulses for the benefit of the group. Our selfish genes have come to promote reciprocal social behaviours in superorganism structures, effectively discarding the notion of survival of the fittest. The brain's neural activity resonates most coherently when there is no dissonance between these advanced new cerebral regions and the older, more primitive ones. What we traditionally call selfish tendencies is only a narrow interpretation of what self-serving behaviour entails. Inhuman characteristics are perceived through the flawed paradigm of identity and this identity crisis we all have upon us right now. Instead, through a scientific view on what we are. A moment so you can imagine how glad I was when I found this little transcript of some studies and I was like, this will do perfectly. A momentary expression on ever-changing unity with no centre. The psychological consequences, so that this as an objective belief system allows self-awareness without attachment to the image self, kind of mimicking Buddha and ancient Arabic, Middle Eastern, Greek, Egyptian mythology, causing dramatic increases in mental clarity, social conscience, self-regulation, and what's often described as being in the moment. The common cultural belief has mostly been that we need a narrative diachronic view on our life to establish moral values. But with our current understanding of the empathetic and social nature of the brain, we now know that a purely scientific view with no attachment to our identity or story yields a far more accurate, meaningful and ethical paradigm than our anecdotal values. This robe isn't really working. I'm not feeling the power of the Queen. It didn't work. I feel better. It is comfy. It's early Saturday. Image is not a consideration. Tiny eyes. Not slept very well. For those of you that know about shout going out to dodgy doctors and arachnoiditis, that's where the internal parts of your spine, known as the spinal cord, fuse to the discs and lumbar inside the spine and glue to it. And when you bend your back, your arching of the back and pulling of the spine pulls them nerves and stretches them. Ow. But this is just a muscular injury. I was carrying the guinea pig into the garden to give it a better time, to enrich its life. And I stretched a few muscles and the ghost who walks calls forth the power of 10 tigers. This is going to be a fun day today. I'm feeling a little bit weak and image is nothing. If the power of the Queen's robe can fix me, then I'll try it. Plus it was cold compared to where we've been. It feels cold now. So that's the explanation. That's the explanation. Stop it. Teapots. Wow. If the robe fits. No. This is logical. So it's our traditional tendency to define ourselves as imaginary, individualistic constants newly wires and designs the brain towards dysfunctional cognitive processes, didn't you know? Stick that in your croissant. Such as compulsively labelling and a psychological need to improve expectations, Facebooks, likes, friends, comments. I tell you what, this is what I said to that. I can't show you because it's early morning, sat the TV like might be live in family and whatnot. So I try to be. But behind this hand is many a foul gesture. Twitter, not just FB, but that's the biggest evil one that does this serotonin, endorphin, and yes, chemical mind play. And even Anonymous has put some videos out quite nicely to fit in with what we're saying here. They're at the next level, quantum, Google military, D-Wave, all right, against your classical. We are above that. Trust me, more so than any technology they can create. But unfortunately, we are also below that in many ways. So there's a great reason and a celebration for this information, albeit presented in this fashion. We'll explore it again later, and I will upload the work once it's edited to the .com, and I will put the links to the documents and scholars that I've found along the way to present this brilliant explanation. Expectations. So practical labelling underpins all forms of interactions in our daily lives. But by psychologically labelling the self as internal and the environment as external, we therefore constrain our own neurochemical processes and experience a deluded disconnection. Growth and its evolutionary side effects, such as happiness and fulfillment, are stimulated when we are not being labelled in our interactions. Imagine that. We may have many different views and disagree with one another in practical terms. If we do, it's normal. But interactions that nevertheless accept us for who we are without judgment are neuropsychological catalysts that wire the human brain to acknowledge others and accept rationally verified belief systems without dissonance. That's you, the self-initiates, describes now. Stimulating this type of neural activity and interaction alleviates, ascends the need for distraction or entertainment and creates cycles of constructive behaviour in our environment. Sociologists have established that phenomena such as obesity and smoking, our emotions and ideas spread and they ripple through society, even much the same way that electronic signals and neurons are transmitted when their activity is synchronized. We are a global network of neurochemical reactions in the self-amplifying. The cycle of acceptance and acknowledgement is what we're good at, what we seem to occupy ourselves every day, all day, sustained by our daily choice in our interactions. It is the chain reaction that will ultimately define our collective ability to overcome imagined differences and look at life in the grand scheme of things, the 100th monkey principle. Throughout this ongoing research, we've made, scholars have made a simplified but comprehensive overview of the current findings. Thus, interpretation of quantum physics and relativity, while it may at times be difficult to follow due to the subject matter's complexity, new word central, if I had a horn, new word, shall I? Wow, stop it, my voice is very deep in the morning when your newborn puppy stage is on, alright, ow, backache is at level 8 out of 10. Left kidney feels like it's being squashed by the man with an iron fist. It's that kind of pain, all right. While it may, I need something to train my mind. So where you might think, why have you got in your queen's robe and given a video on such a complex, natural law study? Because I need my mind to wander, because this is quite high pain, and I don't want to go to the doctor or the hospital. And I'm thinking after a bit, once we've got warmed up, I've had to squat a minute. This is going to be the most hilarious video. If this goes viral, I am the most embarrassed man on the face of the realm, and I accept that. Hello, I am Brother David, aka the Fool. Oh, many names, but only one boat race. Come on, we are on page 6 of 16. This is turning out to be a long cast. I aimed for an hour. I think Yanka will be up by the time I finish this. It is the chain reaction that will ultimately define our collective ability to overcome imagined differences and look at life in the grand scheme of things. Throughout ongoing research, the simplified and comprehensive overview of the current findings, and this is an interpretation of quantum physics and relativity. While it may be difficult, we're going to continue on. Over the past century, many groundbreaking discoveries have indeed led to a scientific paradigm and shifts in our understanding of our realm and world. Einstein's theory of relativity, I know, just come on, we've got to mention it, revealed how time and space are the same fabric, while Niels Bohr, Niels Bohr, while Niels Bohr's research helped understand the building blocks of matter through quantum physics and mechanics, a realm that only exists as an abstract physical description. It's there, but you can't see it, all right? Afterwards, Louis de Broglie, Louisdeblois, discovered that all matter, and not just photons or electrons, have a quantized wave particle duality. These breakthroughs have led to new schools of thoughts about nature of reality and have inspired popular metaphysical and pseudo-scientific theories, such as the human mind being able to command the universe through positive thinking. However attractive these theories, they have new verifiable evidence, and now they are slowing down the crapidemic progress and scientific progress. They are sitting back. Changes are afoot right now. Science has taken LSD to understand the spiritual realm. I'm going to lay it out. Don't let me sidetrack. Comments after. Einstein's laws of special and general relativity are applied in modern day technologies such as global positioning systems, GPS, satellites. The accuracy of calculations would drift more than 7 miles a day, so they say, if consequences such as time dilation were not taken into account. Pardon me. Time dilation is best illustrated by showing moving clocks that run slower. The Concorde tried this, I believe, in the 80s with atomic clocks. Other implications, so did Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Of course they did. I'm sorry, that should have been first. Other implications of relativity are length contradiction, meaning that objects in motion decreasing in length, and the relativity of simultaneity. It is impossible to see in absolute sense whether two events occur at the same time. What? When they are separated in space. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, they say. This means that if a bar of 10 light seconds long would be pushed forward, it would take 10 seconds before the action can take place on the other side. Now we have the quantum effect, which happens before the action, which means it's happening quicker than the speed of light. It's happening quicker than man actually performs the action. And this happens, so they say, with emotions as well. It's been tested before 9/11. The random, this is why you got to stick with indigos and weirdos. The pain. Before 9/11, just before, there was a random computer generator that generates zeros and ones, and they're on just about every continent, specifically placed. I forget the name of this project, but they are there to spit out zeros and ones, and every now and again If we look at them before and after major cataclysmic events, catastrophes, meow, shh, when we look at them, we find spikes before the event. And so it's, what? Mandela, quantum, deja vu, holographic. So bear with. Time dilation, clocks, slower, lengths, seconds, travelling. Without this time interval of 10 seconds, the bar does not exist in its entirety. This is not due to our limitations as observers, but due to inherent consequences of relativity, where time and space are interconnected and cannot exist without one another. Quantum physics provides a mathematical description of much of the wave-particle duality and interactions of energy and matter. What's going on in here? Wave-particle duality, matter and atoms forming. If you're made of atoms, and atoms have a particle and wave format and go to exist in other realms and dimensions and quantumly connect, then here we go. You see what we're doing here? This is an extra little bonus. This is what you call on your Sega Mega Drive, when you got to the end of the game and you played it on an extra hard level and you kicked all the bosses' asses and you did it in record time. And to some extent, Mario, Zelda, and role-playing games, you'd get like a little bonus unlocked, or a film or a DVD or a little surprise. Or if you was in that film from Hollywood, The Last Starfighter, and you do really well in that game, he got a bonus, and they came down and collected him and took him up top and went, come on lad, we need you for battle. Messages in the Hollywood. So please bear with. Limitations as observers, consequences of time and space. Quantum physics provides a mathematical numbers, here we go, description of much of the wave-particle duality and interactions of energy and matter. It departs from classical physics. It separates primarily at the atomic and subatomic scales and level. The mathematical formulations are abstract and crazy. The implications are often non-intuitive. You cannot guess this. A quantum is the minimum unit of any physical entity, much like time and the Sumerian 1260 math system. Well, this goes hand in hand with that video. It's the minimum unit of any physical entity measurement involved in an interaction. The elementary particles, Watson, are the basic building blocks of the universe. They are the particles which all other particles are made of. While in classical physics, we can always split things into smaller bits. For quanta, you cannot. It's impossible. Nada. Kaput. Ababab. What did I say? I said for quanta, it's impossible. Classical physics, off you go. No problem. As a result, the quantum world now presents many unique phenomena that cannot be explained through the classical laws such as quantum entanglement, the photoelectric effect, quantum scattering, and many more. There are many exotic interpretations of our quantized world. The most widely accepted among the current academic physicists include the Copenhagen interpretation and the many worlds interpretation. Nothing for fact, nothing solid, no substance over form here. Current trends show substantial competition from alternative interpretations such as the holographic universe. Remember, it's a linear realm, allegedly. While both quantum physics and Einstein's laws of relativity are essential to man's scientific understandings of the you and I-verse, there are many unsolved scientific problems, and this no far unifying theory of this so far. Some of the current questions are: why is there more observable matter than antimatter in the universe? Scientific questions, not my questions, not your questions, but deposing questions of debuncal. What is the nature of the arrow of time? We're always going forwards, aren't we? You can only go forwards. It's a one direction. You are given life and then you die. It's as soon as you are born, you have a ticking clock, and then it's game over, because the gene and DNA capped the amount of DNA we have, 3 to 5% active, DNA being able to hold 1 gram, something like a terabyte, ridiculous. And when we get to the conscious Christ-like 33, crucifixion, over to this way, boom, opening up, I believe that then would activate that storm and 95% DNA, which would override and come into line with the active 3 to 5 at that ascension point. Yes, and the ones out there that are doing stuff may have beat that by inviting a spirit in to help them. Some of the current, what is the origin of mass? What is the nature of the arrow of time? One of the most important keys to finding the answer to these questions will be with Brother Louis de Broglie and the equations for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. This formula shows how all matter has a wave-particle duality. That's when you got the Nobel Award Prize, given to you for a validated reason, not just for being a president who's quite, great at pressing a red button. I know that was peace and not physics, but it's still a Nobel Prize, and Nobel. Josh would love that. Prize. Surprise. In physics, the formula shows how all matter has a wave-particle duality, meaning that there are moments in which it behaves as a wave and others where it behaves as a particle. That's the formula. The formula combines Einstein's famous formula, echo equals Mikey Charlie squared equation, with the quantized nature of energy. I need another hot water bottle. Let's get this going. I think I might go and get Big Bell and put that on. Experimental evidence includes the interference pattern of Charlie 60 molecules in the double-slit experiment. See Dr. Quantum on YouTube for the double-slit experiment, and you've got a quick animated introduction into what the is going on here. The fact that our consciousness and self-esteem seems to be made up of quantized particles has been the subject of many mystical theories, and why the relation between quantum mechanics and consciousness is unlikely to be as magical as recently that the esoteric movies and literature claim it to be. This is written a little bit from a conservative point on the fence, from an academic scientific research point of view, not a gnosis of anything. There is nevertheless a profound implication, as Louis de Broglie equations apply to all matter. We can fundamentally establish, I gave you a formulation earlier in the videos, and here is another one that's the two formulations that I found very interesting. I'm going to share with you. We can fundamentally establish that Charlie equals Hotel Foxtrot, C equals H and F, HF, where C stands for consciousness. H is going to be the constant of Planck. If you don't know what Planck is, this is to do with your time, travel, flux capacitor, 88 gigawatt kilowatts, Planck, and F is going to be for fool. No, today's show is brought to you by the letter F, and and F is for frequency. Wait there, more water, more tea, Vicar. There's no Vicar here. I hope you're enjoying the Sunday show on Saturday. I am the son, David, the son of the Queen, Julia. she is responsible for what we experience as now, in the moment. You know, that minute before when I was just here, I went to get that. That was then. Now this is now. It's constantly, get ready for this. You're ready for this. Dead. The truth. You can't handle the truth. It's too early in the morning. You're going on too long. Oh, it's been too long, Dave. Slow down. Oh, I can't take it. She is responsible for what we experience as the now, a quantized minimum unit of an interaction. They pass very quickly. The sum of all moments. Imagine a dominoes. You constantly, that single domino at the front, constantly changing. That's you. And you're leaving a trail in your wake, but you're going on for the future, but you can never actually pinpoint which domino you are at any moment in time, because you are constantly. You see, this is not like dominoes, like dominoes. Something's ringing true there. DJ Dave's going, like dominoes. Is it right? Have we got that right? Thank you. Random DJ Dave from the High Life. The sum of all moments, C, is right up to the current moment. I've expressed that, I think, accurately. It's what shapes our concept of life. This is not a philosophical or theoretical statement, but an inherent consequence of all matter and energy being quantized right now. The formula shows how life and death are abstract constructions of C, the conscious. Another consequence of Louis de Blois' equation is that the rate at which matter or energy fluctuates and acts like a wave or particle. It is relative to the frequency of the frame of reference, cymatics, solfeggio scale. Yes, interesting, indeedy. Rife, it is rife, indeed rife. Increases in frequency due to velocity are relative to others and bring about phenomena such as time dilation, frequency and velocity. The velocity of a K2 Doodlebug was this, and it used to fly from Germany in the war, and then when it ran out of steam it used to drop out the sky, and as it picked up velocity it used to go, and that's an example of what that man's saying in a random way. You know, it's a bad one, but there you go. The underlying reason is the unaffected experience of time relative to the referencing frames, where space and time are properties of quanta and not the other way around. You are a spiritual being in a material realm, not a material being in a spiritual realm. To quote Josh X from the chat we had the other night, I think there's a video of it on Sun and Moon and Unscrambled. So, I remember that. It's locked in. Antiparticles are created everywhere in the universe, whether you like it or not, they are. And where high energy particle collisions take place, this process is artificially simulated in particle accelerators, where matter is created, antimatter created simultaneously. So therefore, you may research CERN and the Hadron Collider, which controls by CERN, for instance. Hence why the lack of antimatter in the universe is limited. The biggest unsolved questions in physics to date has been answered. When we trap antiparticles through electromagnetic fields, we can study their properties. The quantum state of particles and antiparticles can be interchanged by applying the charge conjugation parity and time reversal operators. So to clarify that, a physicist whose body is made of antimatter would do experiments in the laboratory also made of antimatter, using chemicals and substances of antiparticles. Then they would find almost exactly the same results as his matter counterpart. But when they would merge, immense energy would then be released proportional to their mass. Very recently, Fermilab, Fermilab, Fermilab discovered how quantas such as mesons are switching 3 trillion times per second from matter to antimatter. Now when something can switch, not only, well done man, We can measure something switching that goes 3 million times a second. So we've made technology that can measure 3 million times a second tweaking. So that's good on us. And then that's doing that, all right? So you just think of that, leave it there, all right? When we study the universe from a quantized frame of reference C, consciousness, we have to take into account all experimental evidence that said applies to quantum, and this includes how matter and antimatter are created simultaneously in particle accelerators. There's research and evidence to show this. And the mesons switch back and forth between one and the other. This has significant consequences when applied to C, the conscience. From a quantum perspective, every instance of C has an anti-C. This explains the missing symmetry or antimatter in the universe, and is closely related to the arbitrary choice, arbitrary judgment, arbitrary courts, the arbitrary choice of the emitter and absorber. In the Wheeler-Feynman time-symmetric theory, Wheeler, Wheeler, and Feynman, Feynman, time-symmetric theory. Thank you for allowing me to do this presentation and take my mind off the muscular discomfort that is tweaking right down my spine and into my crown jewels. If I can just leave it there, I have an immense, tweaking myself going off. I've got things of throbbing. I'll just drop the hot water bottle. Come on, I'm carrying on. The unperturbed time t tango in the uncertainty principle is the required time or cycle for quanta to exist. Similar as observed in mesons, our personal experience of time or interval of the current moment, reaches its threshold when C is cancelled out by its anti-C. C's interpretation of this single self-annihilating moment is framed within an abstract arrow of time. If we then want to define interaction and look at the basic properties of the wave-particle duality of said quanta, all interactions would consist of interference and resonance. Tesla. If you'd like to know the secrets of the universe, I suggest you look at frequency, resonance, vibration, and 3, 6, and 9. But since this isn't enough to explain the fundamental forces, we are required to use different models. This includes the standard model, which mediates the dynamics of the known subatomic particles through force carriers. Use the force carriers. Einstein's general relativity, which describes macroscopic phenomena such as the orbits of planets, hear me out, which follow curvature or ellipse in space and via helix in space-time. The way they say things travel going in the orbit and going round, and I'm not making a claim, I'm reviewing others, we are debating. Einstein's model of space-time doesn't hold up on quantum levels, and the standard model now needs additional force carriers to explain the origin of mass. So much like with every prolific genius of the academic avenue of time, we have them heralded as the huzzah, as the number one, and then subsequent years after their death, later somebody else comes and goes, yes, it was very good, but I present this. And then they supersede that, and now they're the number one. And then after some time, they've passed on, and the next one comes, and you are drip-fed this alleged, race of technology. Race indeed. We have far surpassed what we could ever imagine already. Without success, a unification of both models or theory of everything has been subject of much research. See the film involving Stephen Hawking's The Theory of Everything. Quantum mechanics are merely mathematical descriptions, and their practical implications are often counterintuitive. You can't second guess that, Shiesel. Classic concepts such as length, time, mass, and energy can also be approached with similar descriptions. By building on Louis de Broglie equations, we can substitute these concepts with abstract vectors. This is a probability-orientated approach towards the basic and already existing concepts in physics. The Phi cycle, the Fibonacci, remember this word, that allows us to unify quantum mechanics with Einstein's relativity remix, a little bit of cross-pollination. Louis de Broglie's equations show how all referenced frames are quantized, including all matter and energy. It's better when I sit like this for pulling my back. I'm not trying to be, it's not a statement, it's just a comfort. This is good. Particle accelerators have demonstrated that matter and antimatter always create a simultaneously the paradox of how reality can emerge from abstract building blocks that annihilate each other. These can be explained by using quanta as the frame of reference. It's a massive battle everywhere. Everything's connected. It's inception on many levels here, you see. So we are on page 10 of 16 for those that are struggling. Maybe you need a pause and we'll take a break, have a walk. It's 7:45, it's nearly breakfast time. The princess will be stirring. In a simplified analogy, we need to look at things through the eyes of a photon. My eyes are tiny and weak and I haven't had much sleep. They are quite like photon size. I hear what you're saying. Let's go. The reference frame is always a quantum and defines our space-time as quantized. When it increases or decreases, space-time increases or decreases. This as well is reflected in quantum mechanics as the mathematical description of the probability amplitude of the wave function, or in Einstein's relativity as time dilation and length correction. Length correction. For a quantized frame of reference, length correction is purely scientific. For a quantized frame of reference, mass and energy can only be defined as abstract probabilities. Or if you want to become more concrete and establish a mathematical framework as vectors which can only exist when we assume an arrow of time, that one would be forwards. Light makes matter. Light is connected to matter. Matter is light, vibration, frequency, resonance. So hold this in with that as well. They can be derived as resonance and interference with the reference frame, that now moment, which defines the minimum units or space-time, constant consciousness, seeing there. I think, therefore I am. I thought, therefore I was. Hello, me in the past. What? Near. Gone. See? Equivalent to the constant Planck in quantum mechanics. Experiments show how conversion of matter into energy. I am matter with energy. Yes, I am the original Tasmanian devil personified as man. You see, so my cup runneth over. My quanta is aligned very well, I would say. Hence the overspilling of he's mad. He's the idea he's mad. Shut up. What? Let's carry on. What's it? You need to do a little bit of humour. If you stick to this and you're focused and you're not laughing, then why not? Who are you? What are you trying to be? Relax. It's all then happens. What are we doing? Experiments show how conversion of matter into energy through its antimatter brings about gamma rays with exact opposite momentums. What seems to be a conversion is the ratio between opposite vectors. Magnets now as well. Think of magnets here, toruses. Interpreted test distance, time, matter, antimatter, mass and energy, or interference in resonance with the abstract arrow of time c. I heard some rumours that magnets and magnetic forces could defend against radioactive radiation and poisoning. The magnetic resonance of the free thing magnetic invisible repulsion force against radiation all man would be need for water, air, land. And there's an island somewhere that's got a shitload of radiation, it's got a shitload of cement on that the sea keeps washing over. It's 5 foot concrete thick, 5 meters concrete thick, it's all cracked. The sea's going in, it's seeping from underneath the sand now, and it's going all out into the ocean. What we need there, for anybody who gives a rat's ass about such poisonous and nuclear decommissioned submarines, where do you think they put them? Shh, it's a secret, but I can't tell you that because I think it is a state secret. MI5, GCHQ, where do you keep your broken submarines? I think I know. Am I allowed to say it without bringing in the... Hello, we've got the black hats and the black uniform. We didn't like what you say. Furthermore, you're coming with us. What? No. Haha. So, magnets, all right? Shit hits the fan. Know this. Look at the magnets and the resonance and the repulsion of the for forces of easily done. Beautiful in a gamma ray. Hulk, David Banner, gamma ray. Shit, it's abstract, but it's not, because you've heard and seen and hypothesized many a time. Steve Austin. That's right. Come on, how many dads are going to sit there today going a bit of cooking in kitchen with, whatever. Science fiction is now reality. What seems to be conversion, opposite vectors, distance, time, matter, conscious. The sum of opposite vectors is always zero. So they say, I don't know. I'm taking that on faith to some extent. We need more input. Number Johnny 5, more data. Okay, Stephanie. And this is the reason for the symmetry or conservation law in physics, or why at the speed of c, time and space, or zero, due to length contraction and time dilation. A consequence is the Heisenberg, Heisenberg, uncertainty principle. Werner Heisenberg was one of the best of those physicists who developed early quantum mechanics. Not only did his work enable a description of nature on a very, 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 very tiny, small scale, quantum, it also changed our view of the availability of knowledge. Although he is universally recognized for his brilliance and the importance of his work, he received the Nobel Prize in 1932. For example, Heisenberg remained in Germany during World War II and headed the German effort to build a nuclear bomb, permanently alienating himself from most of the scientific community. That was from the Tinterwebble, that bit of information there. I just grabbed that and edited it into an already existing editing document that was, it was Werner Heisenberg who first stated this limit to knowledge in 1929. Long time ago, to be talking about tiny little things like this, to see where we are in 2019. It's nearly 100 years. It's the 90th year anniversary. And where are we? Oh, I've got a smartphone 10 and I've got an iPhone Phoenix. Oh, the Phoenix. X-Men Phoenix. Don't even get me on that shizzle. That's not made up. As a result of his work on quantum mechanics and the wave characteristics of all the particles, specifically consider simultaneously measuring the position and momentum of an electron. It could be any particle. There is an uncertainty in position. It gives a scientific reference of that positional frame. I cannot speak that reference. That is approximately equal to the wavelength of the particle. That's the reference I can't speak, that equation. This does not explain our sense of continuity, where c cancelled itself out within its own required interval, and where these vectors are exponentially amplified or accelerated relative to and within the abstract arrow of time. The underlying mathematical algorithms also describing the fundamental forces can bring about a constant reality and have abstract building blocks. Darren Brown. This is why the harmonic motion equations are used in many fields of physics involving periodic phenomena such as quantum mechanics and electrodynamics. or why Einstein's equivalence principle used to derive the model of space-time states that there is no difference between gravity and acceleration, because gravity is only a force when interpreted relative to an oscillating frame of reference. Recently, time-space displacement in the form of gravitational waves have been proven. Check it out. This can be illustrated within logarithmical spiral curves being reduced to helix curves by the referenced frame, making objects spinning and moving orbits, right ascension meridian. All is vibrating, turning and in motion. Nothing is solid. Hermetic principles, cause and effect. Many. So we're moving to that next. This is a bit that we can't miss before we go to Hermeticism. This is your 101 key competence of the realm. And who am I? Jackie Chan, who am I? I can answer that question now to that film. Finally, if ever you've seen that Jackie Chan film, Who Am I? Amazing fight scene at the end. I think it lasts about 10 minutes. The Bourne Identity. Here we go. Born Again. Bosch. Sample this. Visually simplified to amplified or growing apples will be interpreted to attract each other when observed by an amplified reference frame, as the size seems unaffected. The opposite occurs with interference in a simplified analogy. The increase or decrease in the size of objects as we get closer or further away in this linear realm is determined by the shifting vectors, yes, of the reference frame. Now that's come from a lot of Earth study referencing that I back up. That's how that shizzle works. When you go up and the horizon gets stays and it gets further away and it doesn't lower, it goes that way. Interesting angles, ratios, sun, refraction, lights that are hidden, lights that are physically behind the sun, a twinge, visible by our eyes because the light coming from the gravitational waveform of the sun allegedly allows light to arc. So that's where we're at now. So bending of light, yes, indeedy. The opposite occurs, a high fiber optic cable, bending of light. That's using an external construct to bend the light with the flex of whatever it is, the fiber optic system, to allow the light, photons, particles of boom bouncing around, simply modelling on the universe. Man didn't make it up and go, I've made something new, nothing new under the sun. They just keep the original source quiet and give us the technology. Ethernet, that's to do with the consciousness already going into the ether, heart, earth, ether, again. Big little flag to mankind with the suppression of, but the inclusion in that connection link. Similar to the way that a radio tunes in on different radio stations, this also applies to the influence of gravity. So this document says, in essence, independently of any referenced frame, there are no fundamental forces. We've got to change position, who knows when it's like with the throbbing back. In essence, independently of any reference frame, there are no independence forces. So I've got that. All interactions within our abstract continuity can be mathematically derived through interference and resonance, as long as the ever-changing and fluctuating minimum unit or quantum, being the frame of reference, is taken into account. Experimental evidence includes the unseen effects in the standard model, where we can see the force effects but not the actual force carriers. The constant continuity of reality does not require quanta to have any specific sequence in time. A quantum is not subject to any notion of space or time and can occupy all of its possible quantum states simultaneously. Now that goes into God a little bit there, doesn't it? I'm just going to leave it at that. Yes, and omnipresent. Okay, that's nicely locked in for you. You know why they say that now. Your reality is, in fact, as was described in biblical text, the sum of one contains the parts of many, written by Hermes Trismes, Buddha, Jesus, everybody, what? This is called quantum superposition, all right, and has been demonstrated in experiments such as the double slit experiment or quantum teleportation, where every electron in the universe, for example, could be the exact same one. My collection of conscious could transport anywhere in the known realm or universes, paradigms and realms in dimensional paradigms and shifts, and you could move. So Egyptians and what they was at, and the research and the covering up and the king's chamber, queen's chamber business and whatnot. Here we are again, going back round in them circles, this time with a little bit more truth and disclosure. The only requirement for an abstract arrow of time and constant continuity or reality is the algorithm, there's our friend again, describing the pattern or abstract sequence of vectors. Who was one of the first races of man to come up with algorithms? That would be the Arabic, alright? Not white, not English, not American, not skinhead, not wasp, but Arabic, alright? So when we say, ooh, towerheads, Arabs, what have they ever done? Quite a lot. Quite an amazing amount. Since this continuity brings out our ability to be self-aware, it inherently makes this subject to mathematical consequences, the fundamental laws of physics. Interaction is merely an interpretation. Think about legal and your life now. Interaction is merely an interpretation of what is essentially an abstract bullshit pattern, random chaos in reality and life, legally. They're having a go, they're playing a game. This is why it's like a random machine, like the wheel of fortune is constantly rolling in some respect, you see. This is why quantum mechanics can only provide mathematical descriptions, since it can only describe patterns with infinite possibilities. When a probability is expressed as conscience, the information necessary to describe the current moment or probability amplitude of C is also what embodies the arrow of time. We, consciousness, embodies the arrow of time and the current movement and probability amplitude of C. We are going through that constantly. The nature of the arrow of time is one of the biggest unsolved problems in physics and has been responsible for the many new popular interpretations. The holographic principle, for example, a property of quantum gravity and string theories. They theorize how the entire universe can be seen as an information structure of only 2 dimensions. We traditionally associate the notion of an arrow of time with the sequence of events that we experienced, such as rearrangement of short-term and long-term memories. We can only have memories about the past and not about the future. And we always assume that this reflects the flow of time to some extent. Scientists have only begun now to question the logic when discoveries in quantum mechanics demonstrated that some phenomenon are not bound by our notion of time. They are outside the principality of time, space, mass, distance, and etc. And they will travel before events have happened, messages and energies, and that our concept of it is nothing more than our perception of the change of observable values. This is the law, observable values governed in the public civil system. That is also reflected in time dilation and length contraction, which are contraction. You are contracted into life. You have a contract offered to you, length contraction, which are part of the reason why Einstein established that time and space are indeed the same fabric. In an absolute sense, the notion of time does not differ from the notion of distance. Seconds are equal to light seconds, but they are allegedly reported to cancel each other out. To clarify, with distance and time being each other's opposites, the passing of time, I know that very well, can be interpreted as the distance that the hands of a clock travel as they move in a direction that is opposite to time. As they move forward in distance, they effectively travel backwards in what we would call time.
This is also why any single separate minimum unit of experience is always instantly annihilated within that timeless now. This understanding sets the record straight between wave function collapse and quantum decoherence. Concepts such as life and death, or mere intellectual constructs, and any speculative spiritual ideas of an afterlife that takes place in a realm where the rigid mathematical underpinnings of this reality come to an end are to be discussed. An important cosmological consequence is that the Big Bang Theory, where the universe is traced back to one point by looking at the past, stretching out the back, taking the strain, no pain, no gain. If you've got any kind of back pain, I'm feeling that for you today, and I'm showing you how we brave through it. And you know what dads are like, we always make out it's 10 times as bad, but trust me, this one is going down the left leg, up to the middle of the back, left and right, into the kidneys, and giving the crown jewels a bit of a throb. So, ooh, la la la. It's not good. The traditional assumption of space-time, where space is three-dimensional and time plays the role of the fourth dimension, could be looking like inaccurate. If we would want to study the origin of the universe, we would actually have to look forward, since conscious sees time vector direction is opposite to the arrow of distance. Back to the Future, from which we perceive an expanding universe. Ponder. That's a bit of a time just for you to get that wrapped around. Although this temporal, spiritual, temporal, I'll leave it there with the Father, Son, and Ghost and Spirits. Although this temporal pillars 11K dome mapping of the universe will only yield the abstract concepts with no relation to its quantum underpinnings. Do you understand the underpinnings of the foundation of the building blocks of your experimental evidence includes the accelerating, expanding universe following what is known to be an inverse or time reversed black hole metric, as well as the many problems related to the Big Bang Theory, such as the horizon problem, horizon, Horus, Isis, and Osiris, the mum and dad of Horus. Very interesting story that I found about the dark side, Sept, Ankh, deities, gods, astro-theological after Zoroastrianism, and very, very nice 60 minutes Sumeria based maths, but allegedly we have the copying of the Egyptian with the horizon, the sun being born again, Horus, eyes on, horizon, eyes on, Horus rising again, Horus rise again, horizon, Horus rise on, horizon. I give you enough there. Nearly getting to a Stovilla moment, and I haven't done that for a while. Big up Stovilla, Elohim Ra. I haven't checked his channel for nearly a year. I'm going to go and have a look because he gives me a calling. I've had a calling look. These derivations could bring up questions about free will. Derivations. These derivations could bring up questions about free will. It's my free will to flick them and look like a silly man, and so I will do. So we're on page 14 of 16. Well done. Congratulations. If you've been with it all the way through, give yourself a 1 hour 23. New law. New world, new will, golden age. This is the golden age. This is the picture. This is the pouring. These derivations, yeah. Since awareness seems to only take place after the action within our perception of current time, most neurological investigations that have shed light on this question show that action is indeed taken before becoming conscionable of it. That's law again. Imagine accidentally bumping into this and then having to translate it, summarise it, update it, modify it, punctuate it, and get it ready to publish in line with everything else. It's what we do. Bring it out on a Saturday morning. I'm so sorry about the noises. It really should. Oh wow, yeah. I'm gonna have to try and do another one of these. Just thinking about the actual quality of the content is outstanding, but the presentation is -3, which will overall ruin it. If it goes viral, I don't think you can live it down. And if it goes somewhere and gets copied, then I apologise to all into the future that have put up with this and suffered to get this knowledge, but no pain, no gain. So we've both earned this one. But a determined point of view is based on an erroneous concept of time, illustrated by the mathematical probability descriptions in quantum mechanics for you to go and check out. Don't believe me, don't believe a word I say, go and use your own due diligence. The fool is not liable because I have an unalienable name, unalienable name, and that's what I shall be doing this cast upon. I am David, bringing you this. These understandings will be relevant for future neurological research, since they show how any neural circuits are indeed a vector, all right, with direction underpinning, just like outside in space. On a smaller scale, they underpin cognitive dissonance, all right, and interference or resonance with the consciousness, light coming in, processing, going upside down, then the mind giving you the picture. The ability to understand and consciously alter these directions acquired through billions of years of evolution confirms how important our belief systems are in expanding our awareness and how they affect our working memory, which is responsible for the extent to which we make connections, networking up LinkedIn, etc., that you're making connections every day, and for the neural processes that create meaning. So you've got an inception, you've got a Mandelbrot going off here. When we see the word connection, we're going to zoom in on it and we're going to end up going in a part of it, and then that's going to break out and there's another connect like Mandelbrot, and this one is an unlimited magnification zoom. We can't build the consciousness capable of fathoming out this one because it is what I would argue unfathomable, which is why it took them so long to find the Higgs boson and the building blocks goo of life, antimatter containing the antimatter, and all of that. This is why it's a glossary. Appreciate there is a billion areas of which we could, but not now. That's for you commenting. I'd like to know. And please keep it relevant, as we have had casts before where you're talking about cats and pigeons and cricket and so forth. Can I have some accurate comments and so forth? Otherwise, in the future, I will decline to put the comment chat on because the few are ruining it. You see any comments in there, Blue Man Group, you are the moderators and the trustees of the chat. Okay, so it's upon you and me to keep this strict thread. Easy for me to say, I know, or trying. It also explains how artificial awareness will require a network of independent processors instead of a linear sequence of complex algorithms. Linear sequence, Linux, linear, see. Thus, grand unification is one solution that unifies quantum physics and Einstein's theory of relativity, while it answers many problems in physics, such as the ones listed here. Now, when you think of the quantum computing system, I hope you've all begun to imagine now a whole new picture. When that computer makes a quantum decision, do you know what it does? It focuses allegedly on an atom, and that atom can exist in many multiverses at the same time. It uses the computing power of all those other quantum computers, all right, in other universes, and it brings it back like that and computes it. So when you think about Mandela, electromagnetic, scary stuff, cancer, random, atomic, scary business, do you know exactly what these private corporations are doing at the risk of the realm, universe, playing God, all for knowledge? 5, quantum, G, do we need it? Is it relevant? Is that what man wants? Is it a logical pathway? Is it sin and demon, opening gates and so forth? I'll let that for you to decide. As I said, this is an overview, simply poised on many gravity areas of which we could expand into and, turn everybody white. with fear. Not that that's a colour to attain to, not at all. Uh, Whatever the outcome, it is clear we have entered a new era, okay? Sophia and the rest of them, MI5, GCHQ, and the suppression and the arrested development of man. Feel a little bit like ICE, Mother, in TQ, CIA, FBI, academic institutions, foreign war relations and councils of, middle finger up to your, filtered spiritual and look where we are, blessed are these scholars. Obviously this isn't my study and research, I'm just again collating, summarising, bringing. Science is open to everyone, even the pom-pom men, and if we can manage to preserve unfiltered, unrestricted access to a neutral internet, Snowden and WikiLeaks here, Assange, fighting for this. We've seen them incarcerated, embarrassingly. We've let that happen. I feel sick. What's coming? So we can, if we let it be unfiltered and unrestricted, we can test the validity of our ideas until we get it right. Open source, unpoliced. We can enhance our imaginations by making new correlations, and you and I, can be part of the evolution of our understandings of the universe and of the mind. All is mental, all right, the mentality of it. And I've got a bit of an epilogue here for the document itself, for the research. It's in quantum mechanics, we have learned to approach reality differently and see everything as probabilities instead of certainties. In a mathematical sense, anything is indeed possible, as in science and as in our daily lives. I feel like a bit like Springer in the final words. The extent to which we can calculate or figure out probabilities is determined by our intellectual capability to recognise patterns. Who loves patterns? Who likes the numbers? Jeopardy at 6 o'clock. The less biased we are, the clearer we can identify patterns and base our actions on reasonable and logical probabilities. Now doesn't that sound lovely? Not historical, fictional writings and characters of yesteryear that depict such characters socially as. See, since it's the very nature of man's brains, the left hemisphere will deny ideas that do not fit, that do not conform. They will say, no, Dave, I'm not having it. I'm showing you the hand. They don't fit into my current paradigm. The more attached you are to a Roman, pagan, legal, civil belief system, the less able, I've got it in, come on, the less able we are to make conscious choices for yourself whilst you are giving love and belief to that Roman, pagan, legal, civil belief system of doom and death. By observing these processes, we expand our awareness and enhance our free will. Imagine that. It is said that wisdom comes indeed with age, but with openness and skepticism also. Skepticism, the key principles of the scientific method. We don't need decades of trial and error to sort out which of our convictions may be improbable. Not at all. The question is not whether our beliefs are right or wrong, but whether or not being emotionally attached to them is more likely going to benefit us or not. At the moment, with the sanctioning and the suicide and the food banks, I'd say it's not benefiting man at all. Alarm bells, send out the flare, line up the cannons, please load them, approach the vessels that are dry docked on the Anglo landmass, alert the crown, the initiate's ready, hold back, arrows, aim. No one's looking. You get me? So, we don't need decades of trial and error. My question is, beliefs, are they right or wrong? No, but your emotional attachment to the belief in them is what is going to bring you down. There is no such thing as free choice whilst being emotionally attached to a false belief system. Bosh, the money system, all of the systems we've brought out, not just the quantum, the science, the electron, the magneto-electro. The moment we are self-aware enough to realise whom you are, what you are, you can truly work together with us to figure out the real odds of what will now benefit you the most. If man does not know his rights and whom he is and what he is, then how may he defend those God-given rights when they are threatened and taken away? Because they'll be done through the back door and oblivious to you. So this will be put on splspro.com. It will be talked about further. I don't know how many minuto, 1 hour 34, well done, with backache, comedy moments throughout as per usual. Let me save those edits. We have got the key competence for coming out, officer agent interaction for your Masters Guild. So yeah, that's coming soon, and I'm going to heal on this Saturday. Oof, wow, look at more emails. I'm on the .com as we speak. What we're saying, who's in the house? 9 of them, 9 early scribes. Wince. Coffee, yes. Paul, Will, Barn, easy. Kevin. He knows his brain. He's a brain man. Look, nice one. Thank you, Kevin. Check out what somatic experience, how to release stored trauma. Oh, yes, Kevin. Blessings and thank you. Brother Eric's. Snap, Brother David. Okay. Try a hot water bottle on the injured area. I have. It's fallen off. It's now on the floor. It's getting it picked up again. It's far away after the casts. Sweetheart. That's it. No image, sweetheart. Feel like I should be coming out in the ring. You know, it's not so far off what a boxer would look like when he comes a sportsman, you know, Puff Daddy with the cane and these. I'll be missing you. Signu just sent me a message. How are you? Let me text her. Video, she will laugh. She wants me to go to the hospital. She knows that when she went to the hospital, they forgot about her and left her for about 3 hours, and she went in with a bleeding and hemorrhaging nose, waking up, and it was just terrible. I was like at reception telling the lady who was worried that she hadn't been seen, and the receptionist told me she'd been seen. I went, no, she sat there, look, clearly not. Yeah, nice one, thank you. 2 years breaking mine, I thought was over the worst. Keep in the realm of pain. Oh, wow, yes, there is, my good man, indeed, there is. Lower back, yeah, sciatic nerve, listen to your body and heal. Yeah, I'm trying, yeah, I'm expected to report in with Brother Serge on Monday for Birmingham mould cleaning. So I need an office job, look, this is the body saying, you can't go doing that anymore, Dave. Sitting here and focus. Yes, I have indeed, Sute, and in Greece, Hungary, all over the places. I've grounded in many continents. I've had a little bzzz in all of the geographical locations just to say, I stood here in bare feet. Darren, Quinn. Michael Quinn. Morning, Menzo. Well, there's a lot of early scribes. I like this. I am. Or have you not been to bed yet? Knowing some of you, you're on the way to bed. Thank you very much for that. Links and info. I will be checking these channels out. Electric Universe. Come on then. Oh, look at this. Ken Wheeler. There we go. That's what I've mentioned. Yeah, I've mentioned that name, did I not, in Principles. Get in. Thank you. Much as we can get for analogy comparison. Obviously, I haven't got atomic equipment and subatomic hadron colliders, CERN, should I say, controlling a hadron, and etc. So we need to compare and get independent sources, as well as Teslas, Tellingers, Hutchins, Dollards, you know. Get in. Magnet, though, is Matthew. Some not Lecroyders, another somebody, Lecon or something, Santos mentioned him. We are in it. We are in the slipstream, the jet stream. Oh, yes. Eric agreed. Past and future. Only the now. Whose quote this? Just, yeah, I know. Ken is also one of the world's best translators of ancient get-in, Menza. I'm a complete dumbass compared with, well, no, we're all on a learning curve and we're at different stages of it. So we're all in your boat, my brother. Dave, inversion table, sort that back out. I'll see what that is. I have no clue what an inversion table is. It sounds like a Club of Rome money extortion device, if I may say so. Have you got the funds? No, I haven't. No, the charges? No, I haven't settled them. Right, inversion table for you. Ah, no internet. How can this be? I was just reading from a document. It's early morning. That was fun, wasn't it? The stuff I do early on. I said that and stumbled over some words. 5 hours kip, if that. I'm going to have an early afternoon kip. We're supposed to be going out to see some brothers. I need to speak to Smithy, give him the good news that the road trip may well, may well be cancelled. It's a generic hoodie. We're alright, I'm getting warm. What at Amazon, low prices on inversion. Other places like Perfect Posture, .co.uk, rover.ebay, verywellhealth.com, bestreviews.com. Here we go, 5 best inversion tables. Oh my goodness me. Okay, I don't like the look of that. Oh Lord, it's where you go upside down on it. It's like when you watched James Bond, and James Bond was captured, and they'd strap him, and he'd wake up like, and he'd be on that table, and arms would be by the side, and you're strapped to a board, and then he'd be upright, and then they'd flip you backwards. So you go upside down, and then they'd start, shaking the and putting stuff in your trouser leg and whatever it was. But this one is for backs. Oh, what? Alright, I'll see if Alas can hang me over the stairs. Alright, I think because I already had a back issue, I know what I've done. I've been asleep, and when I've been fast asleep in them 5 hours that I've got, interrupted 5 hours, at some point in the latter part, I like to turn and readjust myself, and I'm like a fish. I do like a salmon, because of the mattress and the bounce. You get used to moving and going down, and I think I've forgotten in my sleep. I was unaware as I'm asleep, and I've done that move, and then I've been asleep, and it's just woke me up. I thought I needed a wee. I didn't need a wee. Got out of bed, and Anne-Marie wasn't here. It was already 6 a.m. Yanka's asleep because it's a Saturday, and or is it? I don't. Yeah, of course it is. Good Lord. The pain is driving me mad. I didn't want to wake her up. And I thought, I went, Anne-Marie, Anna, banana, nothing. And it was cold, and I was shivering, and I'd got up with back pain, and I was like, this is bad because I don't want to hurt my back, and I can't stand up properly, and the cold was making me contract anyway, and it was a truly unique experience to be debilitated, to walking inches at a time, holding on to stuff in your bedroom, freezing on your own. It wasn't that bad. There's a lot worse off than me. I'm very lucky to be how I am, but at the moment, that surprise moment, I was surprised with that pain. As yesterday I went to bed and I felt 90% fixed. So that's how badly it can go. Much love to you all. More coffee and breakfast. We'll be back later. I have news about an upcoming planned seminar that's going to be advertised privately via the .com, and you'll only get it through being in the .com. We're going to have a private annual general meeting, and I will be working on that thanks to Andy, Steve and Pete that are sorting that out as we speak, and I will let them crack on. Nice to have some help, and working up north, further up than the Midlands and Sheffield. So this is good. New area, new territory, and we will keep it all private, limited to those that can get via the .com. And this is at the request of all. This isn't me taking the major of the group. We all are the majors, and I listen to them, and if they tell me they want to try it differently and focus on pure private an event, and with it being an AGM and a seminar rolled into one, I will record all of the minutes, and for those that can't attend, that want to know who, what, why, where and when a year on, then that will be done as we did last year, brought out to the .com. So excellent. Yes, let's see what happens. There's been some last minute adjustments everywhere, not just in my back. And we give love and thanks for all the fam. Take that and share it. Please, you know, do the sums, check, research, look at the names. There are names of researchers in there, something like Chiron and Alien. I can't think they will be put into there. Once I've sorted it all out and publish it and we gloss it up like the Sumerian maths and everything, it's just this is a bit more raw and new and kind of rushed, but it goes in with the good feedback that we've been getting with the data outlay. And I'm going to contact some of the ones, the Tube family that has contacted me. I'll do that later, but as you can see, I haven't even been able to get to my phone at some points. And then the latter part of the week I was alright. I meant to get in touch and I haven't, and here we are, crippled again on a Saturday. If you see me out, please don't bump me. I need a don't bump, so much love, light. I don't think I'll do that again on a Saturday morning, that's quite a mouthful. We'll make some coffee. Got a hoodie requested from America, so we're sending the first threads of splspro.com to our brother over in the pond there, so that's excellent. That's we've had a donation for America, from America, and I'll be doing that later. Alright, much love. We're going to say ciao. I'm in about, even though it kills, look, I salute the spirit within. King out, Bosh. Star King.